ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rage Select Podcast. Wow, I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I figured that was the best way to come in. You're coming in all like high and rocking and
coming
whatever.
in hot, man.
Coming in hot, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to play.
I know. I feel really bad because last week we did the podcast, and I was just like, I was out of it. I just like had no sleep, like zero sleep for days. To the point when we got done with that, I just started drugging myself to sleep every night. Like, just taking Benadryl and trying to get as much sleep as humanly possible. Even Benadryl, though, has very little effect on me. I'm pretty sure that at this point, I need some kind of chemically induced coma or something stronger. I don't know. But that is neither here nor there.
Black tar heroin.
That's I don't think that's really the direction to go, you know? I think that maybe reeling back a little bit. I'll tell you the problem, John. I'll tell you the problem is that, like I said last week, like I have a very regimented schedule of like get up, I usually start with like some iced tea, and then if I haven't had a lot of sleep, maybe a Red Bull, and then some coffee on top of that. Sometimes, which I try not to do because I know that it's just got to be like it's not burning the candle at both ends. Like it's like setting the whole candle on fire, right?
Okay.
For a few minutes. But what keeps happening to me is that I keep getting these situations where I've got this schedule that's all laid out, right? It's like I'm like, this person's supposed to be here to record in like 10 minutes, and so I'm going to start drinking my coffee, and then I'll be good to go, and then blah, blah, blah. And then that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah,
so then I've got, I've got a somebody can't show up or whatever, and life happens. Like I don't want to call out names or anything. But then I'm all like just jacked up on caffeine. And I've got nothing to do. Where I'm just like, I don't know what to do right now.
Go run with Archer.
You can't smoke and run. That's great.
I'm saying you're jacked up and energetic. I mean, you got a dog.
It's a different kind of energetic.
A dog that needs the exercise.
Yeah, it's more of a like finding the mutants with Cerebro kind of jacked up than it is running around in circles kind of jacked up. Running is for Olympic athletes and young people. I'm more of a walking, briskly kind of guy.
All right.
So, but welcome. But probably the most boring intro of all time. Welcome everybody to the Rage Select Podcast. John, what have you been up to recently? Have you been doing anything? You got a story to tell me?
Not really. I kind of got nothing this time around. I mean, like,
God damn it.
Yeah, it's. I hate to say that. It's just it sucks. But yeah, no, I've just been kind of going to work. My job decided to have another video game tournament that I decided to opt out of.
Okay.
Because it's Dance Central 2015. And I said, nope, done that, not doing it again.
What? You were the best at Dance Central 2015.
No, that was Jason Murphy. We all know that.
No, you were the only one who was challenging Jason. But see, the thing is that you were like energetic and into it. Like you had that one where you had like Amanda and Kristen backup dancing for you and stuff.
Yeah, well,
Like I'm gonna get you a sparkly jumpsuit, and you're gonna come in at the last minute and just blow over the competition.
No, it's good.
I'm gonna tell you this. I for a long time, so every so often at the course of a year, we have one of these fucking Dance Central whatever games that comes up, one of these dancing games, and I've often had this kind of weird fantasy of like, go out and get one of these, get it like a week before it comes out, and then just like pick the most irritating Iggy Azalea song that's on whatever the horseshit release is this time around, and like just spend a week like until I can do that shit like backwards and forwards in my sleep and show people what my natural dancing talent is really like when after I've practiced. I have no actual natural dancing talent.
Yeah.
I'm not even graceful walking or like
I've noticed.
I busted my toe last week getting out of bed. I don't even know how that happened. Like I don't know. It was terrible.
Yeah. But other than that, not really much going on. It's just kind of, everyday stuff.
I feel bad because I feel like if we had just recorded this podcast like after this weekend, which isn't possible, but like we got all kinds of stuff lined up this weekend, and we're starting to get some traction. I think when this comes out, people will probably already know that we put off the Ragecast for another week just to kind of get stuff together. But because last weekend I was just like, I can't go out. I've got to just take Benadryl and go to bed.
We got some stuff planned for this weekend that's personal, not like website stuff.
Yeah.
And then
somebody coming into town.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
Then I know that there's a Rage Cast in the near future, at some point, and then I'm going to California for a weekend.
Yeah.
So it's like this is kind of the calm before the hectic storm.
Yes.
For me, because like this is kind of where it's like, yeah, nothing's really going on right now. No, it's like, my birthday happened. Like I'm in the eye of the hurricane of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Because like my birthday happened and a bunch of stuff happened with that, and then now nothing's kind of happening, and then stuff is going to start happening again real soon.
I got to tell you, the only thing is I was so hoping, and I looked online, and I was gonna take this bullet for the podcast because I didn't do anything. I was gonna go see Pixels today if I could.
Oh no!
I was going to go, and I was going to
don't do it.
Go to a theater.
Don't
because I don't really believe in ripping shit in ripping buttholes on things unless I've seen them. Right?
Yeah.
Like I watched Hudson Hawk all the way to the end the second time because I turned it off halfway through the first time because it was so stupid. But
and you're wrong.
That's what a lot of people.
You have
say.
an opinion, and I understand.
Right.
But you're still wrong.
I think it's funny after hanging out with Jason Murphy and the internet for long enough, my ability to care about somebody's opinion about like my movie or whatever happens.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's my jorts or Transformers or the fact that I like They Might Be Giants more than just about any other band.
What's wrong with They Might Be Giants?
You do not if you. Someday I'll build the DeLorean and we can go back to the mid-'90s and you can have my hipster ass like all into trip-hop friends who just don't want anything to do with you and think that all music outside of what they listen to is garbage. And you'll find out exactly what's wrong with They Might Be
There's nothing wrong with They Might Be Giants.
I it's funny.
They use their songs in Tiny Toon Adventures.
I actually the other day I listened to Flood for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Damn good album. Holds up really well. Or I don't know, maybe it's just nostalgia coming out of my brains. But I've started to develop this idea that it's possible that I might be more kind of like miserable now. Because sometimes you hang around with Jeff long enough, you'll see the miserable side of Jeff. I don't like to bring it out on the podcast because who wants to just listen to it? It's like, oh god, another fucking.
That's how he is when the podcast is not recording. By the way,
that's right. As soon as I'm like, all right, well, let's take a break, and then as soon as I hit the stop button, it's just like.
Half the time, I can't even tell what he says.
That I've listened to all these podcasts. That generally speaking, the most interesting ones are like Serial or some Fresh Air podcast about horrible human rights abuses, or like NPR, or even Cracked, where they're like just dissecting popular culture from top to bottom.
Yeah,
I was like, maybe I just need to go back to listening to They Might Be Giants all the time, just to give my brain a chance to just fuck off and relax instead of
They Might Be Giants, Aquabats.
I never see. I didn't Aquabats.
All right, well, that's cool. That's cool. To each his own. You're not perfect. We know this.
I can say last week I did watch all 4 episodes that are currently out of Mr. Robot.
Oh, nice.
I like Mr. Robot. It's good that Christian Slater is getting work. I think that show. It's one of those shows where I dig on it. I would hesitate right now to recommend it to anybody else because it seems like it's like one of those shows like Lost where I can't tell by the end of the season if they're going to be able to actually stick a landing or if they're just going to off into stupidity.
Yeah.
Right? But what I've seen so far of it's all right. And then I also watched that it just completely berserk documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, okay.
Just came on Netflix.
Okay.
Called Lost something. It was weird because I was looking at all the stuff that's coming on Netflix. I'm like, don't care. Just could not give a fuck. It's like, oh yeah, I actually wanted to see that. And if you got Netflix, I think if you're into movies and the making of movies, I think that's a really good documentary because it was insane. Like that. I kind of want to go. I want to make Kevin Smith watch that documentary because you have him getting up on stage talking about making like Cop Out and all the problems that he had with Bruce Willis and stuff like that. This is nothing compared to the way that Val Kilmer and Orson Welles acted on the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau. Like they just
was it Orson Welles, Dr. Moreau?
Yep.
Why did I think it was Marlon Brando?
Marlon Brando. I'm sorry, not Orson Welles. Marlon
Yeah,
Brando.
I was going to
Sorry,
say, I was like,
Brando.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Wells was dead before that.
Yep. Sorry. That was thank you, John. But no, that shit's because apparently like they came on and just like. But it's so weird. Like the guy who did, because you know that the guy that originally was going to direct that was the guy that made like Hardware,
Okay.
and another movie called Dust Devil, like back in the 80s, right?
Yeah. I vaguely remember those movies.
And it was one of those things where you know what it reminded me a lot is of Jodorowsky's Dune a little bit.
Okay.
Because like this dude had been a fan of the Island of Dr. Moreau for a long time. He finally managed to get Miramax on board, and then it became one of these things where like they kept hiring people here and there and whatever. And it was funny because they went to Australia to shoot it, and they actually at a certain point they took the movie away from the guy. Right? Sorry, spoilers if you. This is a very public story that I just didn't know, and if you haven't watched the documentary, but like that guy, this director guy, like at that point, he like because he knew that if he was anywhere near the set, that they would like pay him his hush money, put him on a plane, and send him back to the United States. So he like disappeared into the Australian outback wilderness, like some kind of weird like, and he's like this. He's like he reminds me of a comic book author, right? He's British. He's got these long black stringy hair, and he wears like a Panama hat all the time, right? And he just disappears off into the wilderness because like he starts it up, and then this monsoon comes in that just fucks everything up, and then when Wells and Val Kilmer come on set, like Wells just starts what's that or Brando? Sorry, God damn it. They just start rewriting big chunks of it just on the fly.
The fuck?
Yeah, Brando's just like, no, this doesn't work. Here, do it like this. And at one point, he's like, yeah, because I think John Frankenheimer ended up directing it.
Okay, yeah.
And he did not want anything to do with it. He just came in to do it to get enough money to do one of his own projects. It's a really fascinating thing. I think that Jodorowsky's Dune, if you've ever seen a movie called, I believe it's called The Hot Box, it's about the making of The Emperor's New Groove.
Yes, I have seen that. That's a good one.
Yeah, and that one's weird because you have to catch it because Disney does not want it out there. And
Yeah,
so I saw
it on YouTube.
Yeah, it was on YouTube for like a day, right, before they managed to pull it back down. It's a fascinating story because The Emperor's New Groove was supposed to be a completely different movie.
Yeah.
And then they just totally like scrapped it and redid it from the ground up. And again, all these people with their dreams of what they wanted to do, and then just kind of like took it away from them and gave it to somebody else. But
there's another documentary I've been wanting to see that I've never been able to find. I can't remember the title of it, but it was basically about the Don Quixote movie that was supposed to be starring Johnny Depp, directed by
Lost in La Mancha.
Okay, yeah, Lost. I've yet to see that documentary, and I really want to watch it.
It's good. There's less. Like the thing about Lost in La Mancha is that movie never got made. So that's I think a little bit more like Jodorowsky's Dune. Which wasn't, I think is pretty good. I also watched the new BoJack Horseman season. That's
nice.
Thing that I did,
Nice.
which I think I already said on the air, but I'll just reiterate for people who just listen to podcasts that I think that. Did you watch the?
I do not watch the BoJack Horseman.
Okay,
no.
I thought that the first season of BoJack Horseman was a nice little tale, nice little kind of like character tale interspersed with some funny weirdness, But it actually was pretty personal and pretty touching by the end of it. The second season, it just didn't like they had to actually kind of revert the BoJack Horseman character a little bit in order to continue having the same kind of like
humor.
Yeah, I mean, because the whole premise of it is that he's this washed-up actor from the '80s who had a show like a sitcom, and he hasn't worked in 30 years, and now he's kind of just what he's doing with his life outside of that, and. The first season had a really clear arc, and the second season was okay. But I feel like a lot of those Netflix series, the first season of them is really good, but they don't really have. I almost feel like they make them, but they don't have a plan about where they're going to go from there.
Yeah,
they have one season in them because like House of Cards season 2 was not quite as good.
Which is weird, considering they have a story of where they could go with House of Cards. Considering,
well, the problem with that is, have you ever seen the British version?
No, I haven't.
Is that in the second season of the British House of Cards, it starts to get really into like the nitty-gritty of British Parliament and British politics,
which is very different than American politics.
So you really had to diverge from the American stuff. But in any case, I mean, there's some good stuff on Netflix. I still think Netflix is pretty much garbage when it comes to movies. Like they have a real shitty movie selection.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been that great as of late.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to documentaries about movies that have a lot of problems. I actually just bought a Blu-ray that I'm waiting to get in the mail for The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened.
Yeah.
Which is a documentary about the Tim Burton Superman movie starring Nick Cage and like what happened with it. Because like before this documentary, there was literally no information about this movie in existence, and then like randomly we would get like little snippets every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think that the closest I'm really interested in that because I really like the Evening with Kevin Smith where he talks about his work on that. And what was going to be that project, right? And then Tim Burton took over, and then they did that thing, and that was one of those things that it was in production for so long. But you know what? I almost feel like that's kind of the same thing as a lot of times. Like we've gotten questions before where people are like, on our Grand Theft Auto series for patrons, Grant and I take questions, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was like, what I know that from time to time the idea gets put out there of like what DC superhero should Rocksteady make their next video game about, and kind of like Tim Burton being tasked for Superman. I don't think I want to see Rocksteady, like I don't necessarily think that I want to see Rocksteady run through another DC franchise. Like I almost want them to just go out and make their own game, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Tim Burton, I don't think he would make a good Superman movie.
I don't think so either. But I'm interested to see what he would make.
I think he might make a good Creeper movie.
Yeah.
He might make a good Creeper movie, or like he would probably do Starman pretty well with all that kitschy kind of like weird dark stuff, maybe. But well, that is kind of all the time that we have for that. So we've got a smattering of weird-ass news this week, John.
Oh, I'm prepared.
I'm
actually not prepared at all. But
actually, you know what? We can kind of segue into the news by talking briefly about... did you catch any Evo last weekend?
I caught snippets.
Okay.
This year, I unfortunately was kind of busy in my off time and didn't have a chance to sit down and actually watch any of Evo. But I caught like little snippets here and there. Like I caught a match that was like from the very beginning of the Street Fighter 4 tournament, in which this guy just like completely owned this other person. And then when they cut to the footage of who is fighting, the guy who's doing the owning is like some like 20-some-odd-year-old guy, and the other person is like an 8-year-old kid. And the kid who just lost like the guy got perfects.
Yeah.
Matches. And it was just like the guy was like, no, we don't go easy. It was just like, I don't care how old you are. We're going full on.
This is Evo.
Yeah, this is Evo.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And then like
because who knows, man? You could decide to go easy.
Well, there was last year in one of the tournaments. There was like a 12-year-old who got like pretty far in the tournament because people went easy on him at first, and then it turned out he was actually really good.
Right. I think that I saw a little bit of Zerd, of Guilty Gear Zerd sign.
I saw the big thing that got newsworthy from that.
Where the guy he did his combo and then stood up and was like, oh! And it turns out the guy still had some health left, and so then he like turns around and tries running.
It wasn't that he had health left, is that his actual combo whiffed.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It whiffed by like a very small margin, and like he just like, "Yup, I did it," and the other guy was like, "No, you didn't."
Right. I saw a KI match that was interesting of a guy that was, I think it was the final, right? And there was a guy that was playing some kind of sand monster that I haven't played KI in a while, so I don't really know. And then somebody playing Saberwolf, and the Saberwolf guy had the other guy down to like 1 pixel of health, right? And he decided, it was like 30 or 40 seconds left in the match, and he decided that he was going to try to wait the clock out. And so the guy that was playing the sand guy didn't have, like, that character has an attack that actually consumes health to do, so he couldn't do that. So he was doing like this really tiny amounts of chip damage to him with this projectile. And then the audience started booing the guy playing Saberwolf because he was just hunkering down in a corner trying to wait out like 35 seconds worth of timer.
I think I know what match you're talking about.
Yeah, and then at the end of it, the Saberwolf guy managed to slip up, and the other guy got enough of a combo on him to come out victorious, and that was like the final. Because when they cut back to the guy, he like had his head down on a table and was. I think one of the funniest thing is actually looking at the. That Guilty Gear match, the way that I saw it was this clip from like ESPN's Sports Center,
really,
where they were talking about it, and then they showed it, and it was so funny because it was like a 35-year-old white guy and like a 35-year-old black guy, and they're like sports commentators, like they got the suits on, and it's like Sports Center, and they do that, and it's obvious that okay. I think that ESPN I think it would be smart of ESPN to start doing. There's enough esports out there now, and there's enough people that actually take it seriously. I think it would behoove ESPN.
That's actually a big thing going on right now.
What's that?
It's because the head of ESPN basically called video esports a joke, and then everyone went, "But how is that any different from like poker?"
Right.
Or your chess games or these, and started like showing other shows, and they're like, but those are maybe not be actual sports either, but they're more sports than esports.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. I personally come down on that in the whole what is art category.
Yeah.
Of like, look, man, if that shit's sports, then everything is sports. If bocce ball, shuffleboard, and pool are sports, then so are video games. It's a set of rules, and you got two people competing or teams competing to who can win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, but I think that it would really behoove ESPN to get in on that, right?
Yeah,
Because it's getting to the point now where it's big enough that you could show Evo all weekend on ESPN. They've got commentators. They've got, you could be a sponsor and you can put it on TV. And I'm not saying put it on like regular ESPN and preempt.
No, you put it on like
games.
ESPN 2 or ESPN 3.
Or this will be the perfect time to finally roll out the Ocho. I've been waiting. I will get cable if there's an actual ESPN 8.
And all it plays is dodgeball and video games.
But, between Heroes of the Storm and Dota, between StarCraft matches, stuff like Evo, there's plenty of competitive shit around there that you could do.
I mean, hell, what was it? One of the, because at Evo, they always have like these side things. Like, it's not all just fighting games. Like, there's some other types of tournaments. There was a tournament for Catherine. The multiplayer mode of Catherine. There's actually a tournament for that.
Yep.
People play it competitively.
But but see, that's the sort of thing of like, that there are places online or in Vegas or whatever that will take a bet on anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll give you odds on pretty much anything in the world that you want. So that doesn't surprise me. But I think that it would be. I mean, I think there are enough competitive games out there. I mean, shit, you could have. What is it called? The big tournament they have every year for like first person shooters, or do they even have a consolidated?
QuakeCon?
I think QuakeCon is more just like a trade show for id, right? I think it's like BlizzCon for I don't even know. I think
I know they have tournaments.
I think you could probably do. I think you probably could do a lot worse. Maybe you could probably do a lot worse than like if you were ESPN.
Yeah.
Than consolidating some like 3-day weekend Evo style FPS tournament where it's like day 1 Halo, day 2 Counter Strike, day 3 Call of Duty, right? Day 4 Battlefield, or TF2. There's plenty of competitive first person shooters out there, and I think that you could probably get enough people interested in that you could totally do it.
Yeah.
And what the fact of the matter is that it's not even like if you were going to do that on ESPN, like you'd have to go out of your way to find commentators or anything, because there's already commentators.
Yeah.
There's already totally Twitch setups. All you'd have to do is pipe that shit onto a television channel.
Yeah. And a lot of those games are, especially with like MOBAs, they are becoming a little bit more mainstream now.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, you got Smite is now on the Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first MOBA, like major one anyways, that is on a console that I know of.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, well,
major
one.
one.
It depends on whether you would think of Air Mech Arena, right?
Yeah,
as a MOBA, technically. But I get what you're saying though. As like a big traditional Dota style MOBA, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's how long until like there's actually going to be like, oh, here's a console tournament, here's a PC tournament, here's
hell, we've seen that Blizzard is willing. They put Diablo 3 on there. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we didn't hear about Here's the Storm getting moved on to consoles as well. I mean,
it might be.
Blizzard likes money, and they know how to make shit work on consoles. And Here's the Storm is not. I mean, if you can, you could totally find a way to make that work on consoles. Like, it's not a big deal. Anyway, so before we jump into the actual news itself, the only other thing I guess is I watched some Mortal Kombat matches, and those were interesting. I do think that there's a level of play that happens in Evo and in upper tier fighting games.
Yeah,
it's too fast for me. I watched that Mortal Kombat tournament and I understood everything they were doing, but I don't think I could ever play Mortal Kombat that way unless I sat down and really.
I don't think I could ever play any game the way it's played at Evo.
It's
like
just
I would even if I was playing at the best of my ability, like the best I've ever played, it's still worse than the worst player that plays at Evo.
Right. Oh yeah, obviously, but I don't even think that I could. Like, I'm glad. Like, I think. I mean, I don't think I'm being. In my experience, I don't know anybody who is able to consistently whoop my ass in fighting games, except for maybe Aaron, and that's very specifically usually in like Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
So, but then I don't know how to. I don't know. There's a lot of that stuff where, like in Skullgirls, where I was watching the people play Skullgirls, where it's like you have to have so many of these combos set in stone in your brain, where all you're doing now is there's just this split-second decision
Boxing.
of like one person
Spacing.
who messes up, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody goes from there. But in any case, that's enough. Enough Evo. We're going to come back to that a little bit. First things first. For all the people who are into that Star Wars thing, right? I hear it's pretty popular with the kids these days.
I don't know. I don't think it'll catch on.
You don't think it's going anywhere?
I don't think it's going anywhere.
I mean, those Ewoks are pretty stupid. So
Yeah.
you know. I found a mod lets you play Jedi Academy in first person on the Oculus Rift.
Nice.
It's not great yet. Like, I don't want anybody else to play it because they've had to retool all of the cutscenes, and sometimes it's too close, and they need to do some work. Also, everybody looks like a midget because of the size of the character models. But it's pretty cool. Anyway, Star Wars Battlefront. Everybody is hyped about Star Wars Battlefront. Apparently, EA Access, if you buy into EA Access, is going to give you the ability to play Star Wars Battlefront on the Xbox One during their open beta first before anybody else.
Yes.
Which I think is an incredibly smart thing on EA's part for this EA Access thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's the thing that Sony turned them down when they offered EA Access to Sony.
Yeah.
Sony went, we don't need that on our console. Go the fuck away.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft said, yeah, sure.
I think it's great. I mean, I think that as we talk about all the time here, I mean, I spend most of my time swimming in the PlayStation pond, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just not seeing, like, every week I go and I look up the stuff that's coming out on the Xbox, and it's just not as, I mean, like, Onechambara is only on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Last week we're playing Godzilla.
Yeah.
It was only on the PlayStation 4.
There's a beta for Street Fighter V going on right now that is only on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
And when the game finally comes out, is only going to be on the PlayStation 4.
I mean, I think that the only time recently that I've booted up my Xbox One has been, I think I bought the DLC for Trials, the super badass
the
whatever
super,
thing.
Yeah, unicorn cat.
Yeah, but that was only because I bought Trials on my Xbox One in the first place, right? Trials is totally available on the PlayStation as well. So I really do think that Xbox, like, I think they need to they need to start getting more aggressive with this shit, right? They need to have, I don't know what they need to do, if they need to, like, start price dropping stuff, but, like, I think that they're still kind of getting creamed, even though I think that they're doing everything correctly.
The problem is that right now they have more exclusives in the pipeline.
Right.
The problem is that those exclusives are not out.
Right.
And the exclusives they do have are awesome, but they're spaced so far apart that it seems like there's nothing.
Well, see, but, you know, it's funny because we talk about that all the time, about how the Xbox One has more exclusives, and I'm not going to say by any stretch of the imagination that Onechambara Z2 Chaos is stacks up against Gears of War Ultimate Edition, right, or whatever. Pick one of the Xbox systems. But the thing is that right now, when there's very little coming out, I mean, there have been weeks where
you're right.
I look and there's just nothing out on the Xbox One. Like,
you're right.
There's some Steam game that's been out forever on Steam. I mean, even this week, like, I was seeing people that are friends of mine that are probably more pro PlayStation than a lot of other folks. But, you know, they put Journey out this week on the PS4.
And if you bought it on the PS3, you get it for free on the PS4.
Yeah. So I think this is a great move, but I do think that because I think that I'm going to have to probably go and get EA Access. I mean, it seems what, it's $50 a year, right?
Something like that.
Like an Xbox Live or a PlayStation Now.
I don't know. I think it might be $70 or something like that. I don't know.
Let's see, $4.99 a month or $29.99 for the entire year. If it's $29.99 for the entire year, you can download full on games and get access to shit like this. That's real smart and it's real aggressive, and I like it. I also noticed, I don't know if you got this, but last week I think I got an email from EA saying that like Origin is now turning into EA Access or whatever.
Yeah.
That your Origin account is now an EA account or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that anybody who's into, I think this will give. Actually, I think this will just. Jason doesn't have an Xbox One, but probably be over at my house, pawing at the door, mewling like a dog.
Let me have your Xbox.
Let me take your Xbox. So there's that. Next up, actually, this is what I probably should have started first, but this is really interesting. So last week, the Electronic Sports League, which is
the ESL.
The ESL they put out a press release saying that they're going to start. They're working with a German and a Canadian anti-doping companies to start implementing rules about drugs in esports.
Performance enhancers.
Performance enhancing drugs. Specifically, that there was an interview, I think it was last week, right, with somebody who was just like, "Oh yeah, man, I was just fucking on Adderall the entire time," right?
Yeah.
Which is actually, I mean, as a performance enhancing type of thing, I mean, something that gives you the ability to concentrate and really hard on something.
Yeah.
That's totally like cheating, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, totally.
But I think that it's funny because there's a bunch of back and forth about this. MLG saying that they're looking at it, that they do have a clause in there, but that they don't actually. I don't think they actually do random drug screening this second.
No, they don't.
But then the biggest problem that they're kind of coming up against is that, as you would expect in big groups of nerds who are into stuff, and I say that word with all of the love in the world because fuck you guys, I'm one of them too, right? I mean, I'm not a real gamer, right? But I am a nerd. So there are a lot of those people who have a prescription for Adderall.
Yeah.
Who are on Adderall for like ADHD type of stuff.
Like actual, like it's medical.
Right. But
and legit.
Yeah. So then the question becomes like,
as opposed to all the pot they probably also smoke.
Right. Well, then the question becomes, okay, well, so you have a prescription for the idea that we can have performance-enhancing drug scandals in the esports community by people like,
and people said this is not a real sport.
How long until this is the thing that I want to know is how long until the scandal where the winner of the StarCraft 2 tournament had paid off a doctor to write him a fake script for Adderall so that he could take Adderall in the competition, even though he wasn't actually legitimately diagnosed as ADHD or whatever. Like, it almost seems to me like I don't even know what to say about this because it's different than physique enhancing drugs, right?
I mean, how long until? I mean, and this is actually not in relation to drugs, but I mean, how long until esports has a scandal that involves some type of government official from some foreign country that's involved in the conspiracy complicitly, and there's a whole thing, and the FDA, not FDA, but like the FBI and stuff has to get involved and all sorts of stuff. It's all crazy.
Yes, exactly. But I think this is fascinating, and I don't have any good answer for it. I would almost say, I don't know, man. Like I'm not like I know that there are people out there that definitely have difficulty concentrating, that Adderall and stuff like that and Ritalin and stuff like that helps. I don't know. Like my first reaction to hearing this was just like, well, just say that nobody can be on Adderall, and I'm sorry if you have ADHD, but you can't compete.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's kind of a jerk off thing to say because some people need that stuff. But it's almost like, like if you were born with a body type that wasn't like really well suited to doing like lots of sports, and then you somehow got like legitimate steroids to be able to. No, that doesn't work. That metaphor doesn't work.
That doesn't work at all.
Yeah. I don't know. All I know is that it seems it's very bizarre to me, and I've never done Adderall before, but I've heard of people who are just like, oh yeah, man, you will concentrate the shit out of some shit. It's like, well, that sounds perfect for video gaming. Like, generally speaking, I don't need performance enhancing drugs, John, because I'm able to concentrate on my screen for 15 hours straight, right? Most of the time. But yeah, it's interesting, and I think that I really like the whole esports thing because it gives me like it gives me hope that someday I'll be able to go to Pluckers and have one of the screens have StarCraft or something on it. Because I remember the day that I was by myself, I was at a bar, I was watching Heroes of the Dorm on ESPN, drinking a beer.
Yeah.
And I was like, this must be what people who care about football and baseball and all that other horse shit where you got to be outside and bugs and sunscreen and, performance-enhancing drugs. This must be what they feel like when they go to a bar and they get really into something that's on the screen. And finally they're showing something on the screen that I'm really into, right? Finally I can be watching a sport on TV and just be like, yeah, go, motherfucker, go, Diablo! So I really hope that this stuff takes off because it would give me a reason to feel like a normal human being.
All right.
Next up, we've got a bunch of Street Fighter news.
Yeah.
Specifically Street Fighter V news. The first thing is there was an announcement, I believe it was this week, that all of Street Fighter V's characters and it was kind of a combined announcement about the way that things were going to unlock and the way that things were going to go, and it's weird.
I got a sort of an idea of it.
So basically, I'm going to read you down. Here's a quote from who is this from? This is from the Capcom Unity blog. Street Fighter V will launch with a core roster of 16 playable characters, with 4 of them being brand new fighters to the Street Fighter universe. Post-launch, we will be adding new characters to the roster on a continuous basis, which will provide new content for players to enjoy. Again, every post-launch character released will be earnable for free through gameplay.
Yes.
So they made 2 announcements. One that they're. I think that they've said that they've gotten beyond the idea that they're going to put out. They said the Street Fighter V disc that you buy will be the only disc that you need. That we're not going to stagger out Championship, Hyper, Ultra.
Well, they're not going to do Street Fighter V, Super Street Fighter V, Ultra Street Fighter V,
right.
Like they did with 4.
Because I think that they said, and whether this is true or whether this is just something that fighting game fans have had a problem with in the past that they're trying to address, that they felt like it was fragmenting their player base.
Yeah, no, it totally was.
Because if you didn't have the latest version, then you couldn't play your friend who didn't have that version, and et cetera, et cetera. And then the second part, that they're going to be releasing new characters, and those characters are going to be able to be unlocked with in-game currency.
Called Fight Money.
Makes it... Is that true?
Yes.
Is that really true?
Yes. It's called
Holy
Fight
shit,
Money.
My Fight Money. It means something, for real.
Now, I don't know if they haven't said if you can gamble Fight Money, but that'd be hilarious to gamble all of it.
That'd be so great.
It's like, oh, my Fight Money, no!
I want every character in the game to have if you're gambling and you lose the match, then they say in whatever language or whatever my Fight Money. Yeah.
No, but yeah, no, you have Fight Money, which you earn just by playing the game, is according to what they're saying. Is that just playing the game and whatever mode you're playing it, whether it be online or whatever, you earn Fight Money.
Right.
And they haven't really said how much the characters are going to cost or how much Fight Money you need.
Right. I mean, for all intents and purposes, though, I mean, I think that those of us that...
It's kind of the equivalent to combat coins, I guess?
Well, it sounds like it is... It's buying into a... maybe slightly less scumbaggy, depending on how much Fight Money you need, free-to-play model, right?
Yeah.
Where you can, if you are playing Street Fighter V all the goddamn time, you're some kind of super fan, right? You're going to have enough money to be able to buy these characters. Well, that depends about what level of playtime, whether this is you have to be playing this 8 hours a day, every day between now and when the next character comes out to get that character.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there'll be a way where you can buy that currency than to purchase the character for just straight up money, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Or you can actually buy, spend real money on an in-game currency called Zenny.
Really? Okay.
That you can also use to pay for them. So essentially, there's 2 types of currency.
Yeah.
There's in-game currency that you earn, and then there's in-game currency you can buy.
That's every free-to-play game.
Yeah, every free-to-play game is like that.
Every free-to-play game has the exact same thing. There's the money that you earn to the game, and here's the gold stars that you buy off of the microtransaction store. I wonder what fight game people think about this. What fighting game fans think about this.
From what I've read, because I'm interested in this because I'm actually really excited to play Street Fighter V.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much that I'm going to buy the pre-order it to get into the beta, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm curious about that. I am, and some people are like, well, at least they're not going to do the bullshit where I have to, where they sell me content that's already on the disc,
Right.
like they've been doing, or where I have to wait 6 months, now I have to go spend another $40 to get another version of the game,
Right.
and then 6 months after that I have to spend another $40 to
Why
get
are you using the horrible person voice?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm like, that's a legitimate concern.
No, they
right?
are. There's a person who's like, at least this way I don't have to do that, and I'm
Right.
totally on board with this. And then you have the people who are like, fuck you, I don't want to have to play the game for millions of hours and just so I can get this character unlocked stuff. This is free to play bullshit. Free to play sucks. Fuck that mentality. Free to play bullshit.
Yeah. I think it really, to me, depends on how much they want you to play.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is they're not talking a lot about it.
Right.
Is they're very they're just like, well, we're telling you that you can buy this, and we're telling you earn this, and that you can use these things to buy these other things.
Right.
We're not telling you how much you earn, how much the stuff is going to cost, or anything like that.
Yeah. Which I think before I would say, yes, this is a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. I think I would be interested in that because, I mean, in all honesty, at its heart, if you kind of erase certain parts of what they've said out of your mind, what it means is that if you're into Street Fighter, you're probably going to get to buy all these expansions without actually spending any money.
Yeah.
And if you're not into Street Fighter and you just play it every so often with your friends, then you're probably not going to care about dropping $10 or $20 on a couple new characters.
Yeah.
After a certain amount of time.
Who's to say they don't do a season pass thing where you buy it and you get all the DLC?
That would seem to be spreading themselves out real thin, right?
Yeah.
DLC plus microtransaction plus in-game currency. I feel like that'd be kind of a hard sell.
Maybe.
Okay, so it'd be interesting to see. And then we also, I don't know if they said before that 14 characters, 4 new ones.
Yeah.
That's what they said, right?
Yes.
16 playable characters, 4 of them being brand new.
Yes.
So,
And that's on the disc straight out of the gate.
yeah.
All unlocked, free to play.
Let's
and they
see.
announced a new character, one of the new characters.
Well, they announced a few characters, right? So, stupid Game Informer player. They announced Birdie,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Who we've seen before, and I haven't watched the announcement video for Birdie, but I'm trying to right now, but it doesn't seem to want to be happening.
So, was Birdie announced? I thought he was already announced. Like, he was previously announced at, like, E3.
was that true?
I thought
don't know.
him and Cammy were announced at E3.
Oh, okay, maybe they did.
And then Ken was announced at something.
Were they both announced at E3? Oh, I don't know. Cammy was though, right? Yeah. Okay, maybe I got my timelines mixed up, but this was a new thing. But yes, the new character is Nikali.
Yeah.
Nikali.
Who's crazy hair, as far as I'm calling him.
Yep. He seems like, just his character design, not the way he plays, but he kind of looks kind of weirdly Blanca-esque to me. Like just
a little bit
kinda,
Blanca-esque mixed with, for whatever reason, Heavenly Sword.
Oh, yeah. No, I see
Because
that.
the hair is just going all over the fucking place.
Yeah,
and
he's
then,
got-
like, he has this power-up move where his hair goes Super Saiyan for some reason.
Yep. Which is weird because his hair doesn't actually look all that bad when it's Super Saiyan. When it's in these weirdo Heavenly Sword dreadlocks, it looks kind of stupid to me.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of all over the place.
And he has a lot of grabs. Kind of reminds me a little bit of almost Wolverine-esque in some of his moves from Capcom versus Marvel.
Oh, yeah, I can see
or
some
Marvel
of that.
vs. Capcom. Kind of has some Wolverine moves to him, it looks like.
I think I don't really know because I don't really play them. I think I maybe would have liked to have seen something a little bit more. I haven't seen any of the other characters, but he's a muscle dude with his shirt off and crazy hair.
Yeah.
Right?
And
And
some
his-
weird tattoos.
His move set seems like it's a lot of punches and kicks and stuff, and I'm sure that in a nitty gritty fighting game analysis would maybe have something different to say about it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But to me, he looks like a very generic character. So far, Capcom's I thought a lot of the new characters in Street Fighter 4 were good.
Yeah, there were a lot
Jun
of-
and the frying pan guy,
El Fuerte?
El Fuerte, right? The big fat guy.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of those, and I guess that's when I look at this guy where I'm like, he just seems like a kind of just like a big old brawly bruiser type of dude.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little boring to me. But you know what? Maybe he's going to be filling like the oil guy,
Yeah.
Hakan. That was
Yeah.
a weird That was weird. That was
Yeah.
some weirdo shit going on. So I think I would rather see more of that sort of thing than just kind of this generic guy. But whatever. I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm like I said. I mean, he looks like he looks interesting. And then also, I like what they're doing with Ken. So.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week with Ken with his shirt off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next up in Street Fighter news, apparently the Street Fighter 4 championships this year at EVO broke previous EVO viewership records.
Oh, nice.
They had more than 250,000 viewers watching that particular match, which is apparently as high as it's ever been. Now, in comparison, that doesn't really hold a candle to Dota or StarCraft 2 or anything like that, right? Those get zillions and zillions of viewers. But it shows that at least there are. Hey, man, 250,000. I'll take 250,000. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of goddamn people. So, ESPN, I know that you're still listening. Just, take a note. And then before we move all the way out of Street Fighter news, John, you actually tipped me off to this at first. Do you want to tell people about this crazy-ass other thing that happened at EVO this year?
Are you talking about the special visit by Miss Jamie Lee Curtis
yes.
and her family?
Yes.
Because her son wanted to go. Her son's a big fighting game fan.
Yep.
So they decided to make a family outing for it for his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
He went as, I think, dressed as DJ?
Is that who he is?
I don't know. But she dressed up as the character Vega.
Yep.
And because she wanted to hide her face, so Vega has a mask, so obviously that's the best one to go with.
Yep.
And she walked around, no one knew it was her, and then afterwards she went on Twitter and said, "Oh, by the way, that was me."
Also, her husband went as
Character from
Dr.
Tekken?
Boskanovich
Yeah.
from Tekken. Yeah. Oh, Christopher Guest. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know
Yeah.
Spinal Tap and all that
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah. But no, that's crazy. I love when celebrities do that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
And she makes a pretty hot Vega too.
Yeah.
That's a weird statement.
Yeah, it is. It
All
really
right.
is.
So
Good job, Jeff.
Yeah, it's good.
Make it awkward.
It's not a good podcast unless I've fucked it up at some point or done something really crazy or awkward. All right. Next up, Atlas had some. Alice and Vanillaware had some announcements. First off, I'm going to say that they announced their next upcoming project with one of those horrible dog shit bullshit teaser trailers that does not show jack shit. It shows the Vanillaware logo made up out of circuits and more information coming in September. And that is all that it shows, and that's stupid and fucked up, and I hate you guys so much. If you don't have anything to say, don't say anything at all. But the thing that they did talk about was that they're bringing Odin Sphere, PS2 title, to the PS3 and PS4.
Never played this game. Heard it was really good though.
I haven't either. I mean, actually, the thing is that when I had my PS3, like later on the PS3 lifespan, they released Odin Sphere when they started releasing PS2 games on the PS3.
Yeah.
And I bought it and I started playing it, and it seemed really weird and interesting. Like all the stages are like a giant loop that you just go through. But I like Vanillaware, and I like their art style. They're crazy, like super detailed 2D kind of animation art style.
I know a guy at one of my jobs that was just like obsessed with this game.
Oh, with Odin Sphere?
Yeah.
I mean, there was this one, and then there was another one right before Dragon's Crown. But in any case, I'm super excited for this because Odin Sphere was one of those like late-ass PS2 games that I never got.
Yeah.
I never got into. I think I was already kind of moving to the PlayStation 3. I mean, I could say right now, Persona 4 was the last PS2 game that I bought and played, and then I didn't even actually beat Persona 4 until it came out on the Vita. But I knew somebody who actually had a modded PS2, I guess, that had this, and I always thought it looked really interesting because I'm a big fan of the whole 2D platforming. And I think that the idea of taking that simplistic 2D platforming and then having these just like beautiful sprites and character designs and stuff is a really cool thing to do.
No, I agree.
So I am, for one, crazy looking forward to this because, I mean, even watching this trailer, it's just like, God damn, that looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of makes me want to go back and play Dragon's Crown. So, yeah. Odin Sphere, you guys will be seeing it at some point when it comes out on the old dojo. All right, next up, for some reason that I am entirely not clear about,
things.
Rob McElhenney, and I think Grant brought this up briefly on one of our dojos, but I don't think we actually went into it in detail. Rob McElhenney, the guy who created It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Yes.
plays Mac on It's Always Sunny in
Yes.
Philadelphia, has been tasked to direct the Minecraft movie.
Yes.
Why?
Because why not?
I mean, like, if the Minecraft movie is just going to be a 2-hour episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia done in Minecraft, I'm totally good for that, right? But, I mean, I guess.
I mean, you got to question: which way is the movie going to go? Is it animated? Is it live action? If it's animated, are they going to go the route of Minecraft story mode, the Telltale game, where they just create their own world and then do a story within that world?
Yeah.
Or do they kind of do it loosely, base it on what the game actually starts you off at, and is this lone guy in this world and trying to survive and building and almost where does it go? How do you make that a movie?
I think it's really weird that Minecraft, even in the Minecraft adventure stuff, right, or Minecraft stories or whatever it's called, story mode. Is that what the Telltale game is called?
Yep.
Okay.
Minecraft story mode.
It's so weird because it's a very, very, very popular game.
Yes.
That they're now, after 5 years, I guess, of Minecraft. It's been out for a long time because we did the Xbox 360 version when I was at Spill with Jason, right? That was at least 3 years ago, right? And it was at least in early access for a year and a half, 2 years before that.
Well, it was early access before there was a thing.
Before there was early access. It seems so strange to have a game that has its own culture and its own kind of like fans and stuff like this, and then bolting a story mode onto it, or even a movie about it. I mean, this is one of those things where I don't entirely understand, because I keep saying I think the way that you make a movie about a video game is to find out what that game is like, what the core part of that game is, and then write something around that. But in Minecraft, it seems like Minecraft is like, okay, you know what? Nope. I just talked myself out of it. I was just about to say, because to me, Minecraft is a lot like Legos. You can't make a Lego movie that's any good. And then my brain was like,
wrong.
Tap, tap, tap. Yep, you could totally do that. So, okay, fine. We'll see. I think that.
Well, I think it's interesting because Minecraft. It's weird because if you look at what Mojang, which I didn't realize they were called Mojang until E3.
You don't pronounce the J?
Yeah, apparently it's pronounced Mojang.
Okay.
I always called him Mojang.
But I highly doubt that, because I've been calling him Mojang for a long time, and the internet loves nothing more than to correct you when you mispronounce something. So
Mojang employees, whatever you want to call them, on the E3 floor and stage said Mojang.
Okay.
Like the J is silent.
So you think that we're all saying it wrong?
We're all apparently saying it wrong.
Okay. All right.
But anyways, the game is very much here's all the mechanics, do whatever you want.
Right.
Like that's kind of
there's a loose story.
There is a loose story, but a lot of that came later.
Right. Yeah.
Like a lot of it came much later. Like when it first started, it's like, here's the building, here's the world, here's the mechanics, here's what you can do whatever you want.
Right.
Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Telltale doing like, no, here's a structured story within this world, and
right.
and you're gonna follow it, kind of thing. And it's like, my question is there enough Minecraft to be able to?
I think that you know what? I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. When I think about the story of Minecraft and the Enderman and the Ender Gate and the dimension with the Ender Dragon, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got your pigmen that are there that are kind of just like whatever, right? Making their own thing.
Creepers.
And then you've got all the monsters, right?
Zombies.
You could write any story that you wanted to in that universe, and it would fit fine, right?
Yeah.
You've got an ultimate bad guy. You could make it about the one Enderman, right? That is the evil villain, right? And that all the creepers and stuff are his commands, but he's actually under the thrall of the Ender Dragon, and blah 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 blah. And we've got to protect the land because the darkness is coming. Yeah, you can totally make any movie that you want to out of that. I just wonder if people are going to really accept it.
Well, that's my question. Is like, is it, because we do have a lot of people saying, oh well, fuck the Telltale game because Minecraft isn't about a story, and
right.
that story is, that's not Minecraft.
Yeah.
So it's like, is there a place or a happy medium with that? Because they're very much on two opposite ends of the spectrum for video games. And is there a happy medium that could be used to turn into a movie?
Yeah.
That's, I guess, my question.
I think it makes a certain amount of sense because the actual mechanics of what you do in Minecraft, I mean, outside of making something that was clever, like the Lego movie, where they make building Legos into the plot, like that's baked into the actual plot of the movie, you'd say that you got a world that operates by a certain number of rules. All you have to do is write some characters to be in there, and then you could just do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Because a movie about Minecraft would not be about punching, dirt for 6 hours to make your perfect sandcastle, right? It would be about a beginning, middle, end 3-act plot structure, which Minecraft isn't about in the first
punching
place.
things
About
and building your sandcastle.
Yeah.
First act punching things.
Okay, but we kind of got off track because I just think it's weird that Rob McElhenney is directing.
Yeah, he's directing it, so
he directed apparently a TV movie that I've never heard of before called Pariah that's not out yet.
Oh, never heard of it.
A couple episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, okay,
well, good on him.
I mean, maybe he's a big fan of Minecraft, and he was just like, "Hey, I'll do it," and they're like, "Okay." Next up, so last week, I don't know if you saw this last week, but fucking Derek Smart elbowed his way into video game news by writing a blog post about how Star Citizen is a boondoggle and is probably not ever going to come out, and it's feature creep and vaporware, and they got to be careful and blah blah blah. And in response, RSI terminated his Kickstarter, refunded all of his money, and told him to GTFO because they said that he was using their resources as a platform to pimp out his own crappy ass video game. Did you know that Derek Smart has an early access like Battlecruiser style game?
No.
Oh my god, it looks terrible. I think Derek Smart's a fascinating guy. I don't think he's ever made any a video game that is not a piece of shit. I think they've all been pieces of shit.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know who that is.
Do you know the story of Battlecruiser 3000?
No.
Okay. Way back before there was early access or indie development or any of that stuff, this guy decided that he wanted to make a game that was like you have a giant like Enterprise style spaceship that you can fly, and it's got like drop ships and fighters that you can launch, and you can fly them like down all the way to a planet, and then get a rover out and drive it around and do stuff. And he was working on this one man all by himself, and then I think it got picked up by Take-Two. Take-Two decided that they didn't want that it was costing too much, so they made him shove whatever build he had of it out the door, released a broken version of it that did not work. Then he fought them for a while to get the rights back, I think. I'm pretty sure. I know that part happened because I bought Battlecruiser 3000 because it seemed like everything that I ever wanted. In any case, dude's been around forever. This stuff was happening when, like, in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
When I was, like, in my teens.
Yeah.
So he's got another game on Steam. It's early access. It looks like garbage. It could be all right, but it just looks like total garbage to me. But they did that. Well, then this week, Chris Roberts came out and kind of gave a real big rundown trying to calm people down and assuage the fears of people who think that Star Citizen is getting out of control.
Yeah.
Which, in all honesty, after looking at it, which I haven't looked at it in a while, it is out of control.
Yeah. Shit's crazy.
Like, he talks about that the more money they got, the more features they started bolting on. I'm sorry, but just like, okay, I don't know anything about Chris Roberts' development style. I've never read any like blogs or anything about it. What I know is that this seems like the sort of thing where they built feature creep into their money, their fundraising.
Yeah.
That as they got more money, they were going to add more stuff on, and that they should have stopped at some point and said, we're going to stop. We're going to put out what we've got. We're going to make a space combat game, and we're going to put that out, right?
Yeah.
But instead, it was like, now you've got a first-person shooter module. Now you got to do all this motion capture. Now you've got, all this story stuff that needs to happen. You have all these different ships and all these different things. And so anyway, you guys can read the whole explanation of it. But basically, what he's saying is that he's just kind of trying to reinforce just like, hey, trust us. We know what's going on. We've got a bunch of different studios working on this stuff. We're planning to get something out. We don't want to say when because we don't know exactly when, and we don't want to promise something and then not be able to deliver it.
Yeah.
I know that they just recently moved back a little bit with the whole first-person shooter module.
Well, they put it on indefinite hold.
Yep. I don't know, man. This is just a second week where this happened or where this came out. I'm getting real worried about that game.
Yeah,
Like, I
no,
think that it
I
should
don't.
be out by now.
Yeah,
Um,
I was worried about that game when they were selling battle cruisers on their website for like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work either, because it's like, I'm not going to pay. Like, they can do whatever they want to with this game, but I'm not going to pay more than $60 for Star Citizen. Like, if they want me to buy with real money every ship that I drive in that game, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not doing that. Somebody was like, "Oh yeah, if you want to buy all the ships in the game, it's like $15,000." And it's like, yeah, no. Like, that's not. No video game in the world can ask me for $15,000, and you cannot be a crazy person, right? I mean, I don't know if you can buy your ships with in-game currency or microtransactions. Or is it going to be a $60 game that then has microtransactions on top of that? I mean, I feel weird that all the Kickstarter backers are spending more and more money on buying more and more ships, and it's like, you got to put something out. Because I played it at South by last year, or this year.
Am I getting it? No, I'm thinking of Elite Dangerous. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah. I was like, isn't it on Xbox? I was like, no, that's Elite Dangerous.
That's Elite Dangerous.
That's on Xbox. Sorry.
I need to maybe go download that on Xbox, see if it's any more easy to play than it was on the PC. But I really think they need to put something out.
Yeah, no, they do.
They need to put something out soon, and because if this creeps along for another year or two, I don't think you're going to be able. I don't think that anything that comes out at that point is going to be worth the amount of time and money and effort that people have invested in it so far. So
I agree. I agree completely.
Okay. Oh, all right. Time for the lightning round, because as always, we're going on a little bit too late.
I ramble. I'm sorry.
I'm going to skip that. Nintendo is partnering with Facebook apparently to promote Super Mario Maker.
Cool.
Facebook's going to make some levels, and they're going to promote it. All right.
Sweet.
I don't know why.
I'm really looking forward to Super Mario Maker, so there you go.
Devil's Third is still being put out by Nintendo on the Wii U. I'm interested to play that game. It looks pretty bug nuts, but
yeah, looks crazy.
Been some weird rumors that it could possibly be a little bit fucked up.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Square Enix is making a game called Dragon Quest Builders that's basically one part Minecraft and one part Dragon Quest.
Interesting.
Where you build like castles out of like Minecraft style modular stuff, and then you take those castles and then you go out into the world and you fight your traditional Dragon Quest style monsters out there.
Huh.
This is not really much of a story, and I mostly brought it up because there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of news this week. I think this game looks really fun.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Like,
from what I've seen, what pictures I've seen of it.
There's 3 screenshots here. I mean, maybe need to go look at the thing. And then last but not least, well, there's 2 more stories before we get done here. First off,
you want Fallout? We got more Fallout.
God damn it.
That you've already played.
I already own every Fallout game, but they're putting out this Fallout anthology pack that is every single Fallout 1, 2 Tactics, and then 3 and New Vegas, and it comes in a case that looks like one of the ammos for the nuclear bomb, the Fat Boy or whatever it is, right, in Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I don't like collector's editions, and I don't like to buy stuff that I already own, but I kind of want this.
Yeah.
I kind of, out of all the things, I'm actually considering going and purchasing one of these things.
Outside of it coming with the games and the coming in the really cool packaging, is there anything else that comes with it, or is it that's just it?
Yep. All first of the 5 titles, and all the additional content that was released with those. The physical set even includes an empty spot reserved for the upcoming Fallout 4.
Nice.
Let's see if they've got a... Do they have a... it's going to be available digitally and in physical form on September 29th. Oh, supplies are limited. Never mind. It's already sold out. Fuck me. Whatever.
Yeah. Supplies are limited. That means it's already sold out.
Yep. That means it's already sold out and go to shit. Plus, I don't know about like... I mean, okay. These are the PC versions, obviously, of these games.
Yeah.
On CD.
Yes.
I still have a CD drive, but only just barely. And you come to a point where this is a nifty little bomb sculpture, right? But there's going to come a point in my next computer, or the computer after that, where I'm not going to fucking have an optical drive. So what's even the point? And last but certainly not least, real interesting thing here. Apparently, there's a big old update. And let nobody say that I'm not entirely biased, because there's a big old update for Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Steam. And this is interesting because they've added some support in it for widescreen monitors,
okay,
up to 4K resolutions. They've added, let's see if I can find They've added 37 achievements. It's now available for Mac and Linux as well as PC.
Nice.
Steam Cloud saves, native widescreen support, 4K and 5K resolution, controller support, Force special effects menu option, and Steam Workshop support. And that is important because one of the things that they have on the Steam Workshop is that giant, I forget what it's called, the Sith Lords Restored project, where they went back in and they trawled through the unused code and then brought it back out and resurrected it and went back in and added it back into the game. So for $7.99 on Steam now, you can buy KOTOR 2 that's got all this, right?
Yeah.
And you can go and subscribe. And I've done it. So I might make a video. I'll maybe do a Jeff versus Beer where I play it or something like that. But where you can play KOTOR 2, and it's got all of this content that apparently, for all intents and purposes, from what I've heard from other people, was excellent content that just was not all the way finished, that fans have spent for the last let's see. This mod was released in 2009, but it's updated up to this year. They continually are still working on it. The point of bringing this content that was hidden back away so they can make the release date out and restoring it back to the game.
Okay.
Which I think is incredible because, and I'm going to give, you know what? I'm going to say right now, I may not be able to do it in a big block, right? I may not be able to sit down and marathon or anything, right? I'm going to give it another shot. This will be my 5th time trying to play KOTOR 2. So I'm going to give it a shot and see what it's like because I've heard nothing but good stuff about all of this extra content.
Okay.
And so if I can get over my desire to slap that old woman right in her fucking stupid Force face, then I will see what I can do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I can get some enjoyment out of it. And that is all the news that we have. I said before it was kind of a weird news week.
Yeah, it is.
Hodgepodge of stuff. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we are going to answer your questions. Are you ready for the question answer?
I am ready.
To dispense the wisdom
yes.
to the people of Rage Select? Well, then stay goddamn tuned. And we're back. We are back. And before we start, John, I have to do a little PSA for people.
Okay.
So we have. I've actually been having a lot of difficulty getting enough questions every week for the podcast, and so I've been going online and telling people hey, we don't have enough questions. Just send us more questions. Send us questions, man. Just send us all the questions. I don't want to have to poke you guys with the stick to get to questions. I want to get to questions. So when you're sitting there and you're in class or you're eating your, grilled stuffed nacho and you're just oh, wait, I have a question. What about, do you get sour cream on what grilled stuffed nacho do you prefer? Just bang that shit out. You can pull out your phone or whatever and put it into mail@rageselect.com and give us the questions. We need the questions, John. It's been 4 years that I've been answering people's questions on the internet, and I almost feel are we getting to the end of it?
We're professional question answers.
Have they asked me all the questions that they want to hear an answer to? If that's what's happening, that's great. I just need to know so that we can figure out something else to do during the second half of the podcast that is not answering questions. In any case, we do have questions this week, and our first one comes in from Pedro, and he says, "Hello, Jeff and John. This is Pedro from the deep dish pizza eating, Italian beef savoring, Chicago style hot dog creating city of Chicago, here for another deep question to our friends in Austin." It's the deep and two Chicagos in there. That was a very
Chicago.
With the sad passing of Satoru Iwata, a group of my friends got into a conversation of what other video game creators, developers, etc., have left a lasting impact on our favorite hobby. My question to you all, is what video game creators do you think have left their lasting mark on the video game community? Note this is not a dick measuring contest, just your opinions on people that you are glad made their contributions to our favorite hobby. Personally, I believe that Ralph Baer, also known as the father of video games, is the man who made the initial effort to bring video games to our homes by making the first marketable home console. While it can be argued that someone would eventually see the potential in video game consoles, it was Ralph Baer who dared to bring this, at the time, untested form of entertainment to a mass market, and the rest is history. Without this man and his vision, there would be no NES or Shigeru Miyamoto, or at least they would not have broken through at the time that they did if Ralph Baer didn't create the first video game console. Thank you very much for answering my question, and keep up the fantastic work, Pedro.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that answer.
Yeah. I was thinking about this. I mean, I think that, I've got a bunch of different answers, and I was trying not to just fall back on the ones that I normally say. I'll maybe get some of these out of the way up front, right? I do think that, and there's probably other people who are bigger influences, but I think that a lot of the cinematic aspects of video games, in a lot of ways, are probably owed to Hideo Kojima and the original Metal Gear Solid. About how, at least
some of it. I mean, I think that was gonna go. I think he was at the forefront of pushing it out there. I think it's definitely a lot of developers are trying to figure out how to do that.
Yes,
and he's the one who came up with a way to do it that worked.
I just remember that game made a very lasting impact on me because of the way that it was really emphasizing its story in a very kind of Hollywood fashion, right? And I
agree with that.
Kind of a big budget blockbuster fashion almost, right? As opposed to just servicing the plot. Because we had plenty of like RPGs and stuff where you had big intricate stories, but that kind of flashy action. I remember like one of the reasons that I love that franchise so much is because it made a really big impact on me. All the weird sci-fi twisty turny nonsense and the way that the game did all kinds of like, crazy different things that I hadn't seen before, I thought was really interesting. Really kind of a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
What about you? You got some?
I mean, I think Nolan Bushnell is probably a guy who's founder of Atari.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably left a long-lasting impact. Also, a really nice guy.
Oh yeah.
I think obviously Miyamoto.
Yep.
It's another.
I mean, I don't think you can have a list like that doesn't have Shigeru Miyamoto in it.
Miyamoto's a big one. It's just I'm just trying to think of, and despite what crazy shit we talk about him, or not us personally, but like the industry has said about him, Peter Molyneux.
Yeah.
I regardless of what you think of his games,
sure,
and what just his passionate, this is what we're going to do, even if it's not what we're actually going to do,
right,
has left an impact on our industry.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely throw. I mean, my perspective is a lot more current. I mean, I think that you could probably throw Jonathan Blow in there.
Blow, probably.
So I mean, at least a lot of those early indie folks, Notch and Mojang. I mean,
Notch is, just what he did with Minecraft practically changed things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he was kind of the first one who did that. Buy my beta, and you'll eventually get the full game once it's released. And then that now became early access, and
right?
Like not just in the fact that there are millions of Minecraft clones out there, but also just the way it was released, and that whole business model changed things.
I mean, I'm going to say, also from a cinematic perspective, I think that I'm trying to think, but. I think Dan Houser is also really important. I mean, he's the writer for all for GTA. I'm trying to think of other franchises that do that kind of cinematic crime story as well as GTA, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time coming up with anything. Right?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I feel like anybody whose name I know, just if you were to say like Tim Schafer,
right,
or they're all people who I'm like, those are people that have totally made their impact, for better or worse.
I was thinking about David Jaffe.
Yeah,
and the fact that we had, what was it, like a good solid 5 years of QuickTime events, because of fucking Jaffe and God of War. Cliff Bleszinski also. So we're still in the midst of a good 15 years of cover-based shooters, or however long it's been since the original Gears came out. I mean, there's so many people that I think that you could probably point to. It's funny because I think that there was a time where I feel like there's a time before which or companies that, like, I would say Warcraft was had an indelible impact on the entire industry. I don't know who actually was like the director of Warcraft, the game, right? or who at Blizzard like came up with like World of Warcraft, right? Is a huge thing that has influenced a lot of different. There's a certain point during the history where I don't know those people because it wasn't. I mean, I know Hideo Kojima. It's one of the things we were talking about last week with Kevin about them taking his name off the box for 5 again.
Yeah.
Is that I think I only knew his name because it was written on the box.
Yeah.
It was a Hideo Kojima game, right?
Yeah.
I played Demon Souls and Dark Souls before I knew who Miyazaki even was. I mean, like I went through Demon Souls. We're like, yeah, this is solid, right? And Dark Souls came out, and I played through all of that, and it was like then I kind of started to finally like look up who that was. And then on the other hand, you've got people like like Ken Levine, who I'm just like, well, Ken Levine is Ken Levine. I don't know if he's really, we talked earlier about Chris Roberts and Derek Smart. Derek Smart's an interesting character. He's not a, I think that he's an interesting pioneer. He's a guy doing a thing before there was even a thing, before there was a name for the thing that he was doing.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, trying to think of, people like, Inafune or the guy who made Castlevania. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head.
Ikaragi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like these are all people. Like I feel like anybody whose name I've known, regardless of how shitty their games are or how if I know their name, that must mean they've made some impact. Because I don't follow video games like I follow comic books.
Right.
I don't go, oh man, I can't wait for the next game from Sam Lake, though I do actually say that, but that's just me. But so it's kind of just one of those things where I feel like if I know their name, that means they've had some impact on the industry.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's enough. So there you go, Pedro. Our next one comes in from Dr. G. Dr. G, this is actually one we got last week. This one says, Dear Jeff and John, is Destiny just one big social experiment? It seems like they made a super addicting game and then do new things that would make it seems like they made a super addicting game and then do new things that would make most fans drop a game, yet everyone keeps playing. Could big psychology be backing them financially as a huge research project? Dr. G.
Wait, what?
Okay, so the corporate overlords at Big Psychology, are they pumping money into Destiny as one large social experiment to see how boring a game can be when you're addicting, and yet still have a huge player fan base that are rabid and really enjoy it? I guess is what he's asking. Or she.
So was that email a big corporate thing to see if you would actually read the whole thing, no matter how weirdly it was structured?
I don't know. Maybe that was a big psychological experiment.
Is he doing a psychological experiment on you?
It's very possible.
Or is it actually written properly and you just can't read it?
No, it's not. I had to fill stuff in and change stuff around a little bit.
So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so.
You know what? I will say about Destiny and about the structure of Destiny is that I don't know if this question. If you're legitimately asking me if a shadowy pharma conspiracy is happening to see about addicting people to a video game, I'm going to say that no, and you need to get back on your meds because that's some crazy Mel Gibson shit, right? So, I'm
going to say yes, and they're listening to you right now.
Dial it back a notch. You need to
dial it back a notch, not because you're crazy or you're coming out there with weird ideas. It's because you know too much and you don't want them to know that you know.
Right.
You got to dial it back so you can hide that.
Yeah.
So that you can strike when the time is right.
That's right. I just want to see how far you're going with this. It's like, keep going, John. And then you got to get a tinfoil hat. And,
you will attack their lizard brains.
Here's the thing, though, and here's the thing that I will tell you, Dr. G. It's not a government conspiracy, but actually is a part of video game development. Is that they do psychological research on Skinner box techniques, right?
Yes.
Which is basically a question of measuring how long between new stimulus drops, etc., people will wait in order to keep doing a thing. Yes. Diablo and lots of free-to-play games are based on this, right?
Yes.
Where they've taken psychological experiments that basically show that there is you can measure an amount of time where it's like video poker, slot machines, gambling, they've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Where they're programmed to know that, like, if you can just give somebody some kind of reward every X number of time for X amount of input from that person, that you can build an addiction machine. It's the reason that people play Candy Crush like they do, is because Candy Crush is built from the ground up to have those hooks in it,
Yes.
and to reward you after a certain amount of time and impede you after a certain amount of time in order to keep you playing. Diablo does the same thing with loot drops. So the thing is that Destiny is built on a structure because it has those loot drops. I think the upper tiers of Destiny are a whole different thing, but they probably have their own psychological push of at a certain amount of investment that you have into the game, how much repetitive shit you will go through.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, all of Destiny is repetitive. It's the exact same thing over and over again. It's escort Dinklage bot to a certain place, turn him on, fight waves of dudes, get your reward, continue on your way, right?
Didn't get the drop you want, do it again.
MMOs, high-level raids, exactly the same thing. Do a high-level raid over and over and over again to try to get the loot that you want, and then you have to roll for it with the other people that are in your group, and then see if you're able to pick it up, and then boom, 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 boom. So the idea of having a vast shadowy government conspiracy that's trying to make people play Destiny is not true, but I can guarantee you that there's at least, I would suspect,
There's someone who's looked into that stuff.
right, some kind of like tweaking that was done, or a psychologist that they talked to that basically told them you have to have X number of drops in X amount of time just to keep that little dopamine rush in people's brain and keep them playing the video game.
And despite what Jeff says, it is a shadowy government organization.
You and John, you can join John on the dark net, where he runs a message board that's all about uncovering the vast government conspiracy.
Nah, man, darknet's too public.
The darknet's too public?
Too public.
We do carrier pigeons, bitch.
It's smoke signals.
Smoke signals. That's very public.
Yeah, but they don't know what they mean.
Oh, okay.
You have to know what they mean.
Oh, you've got a 1 day cipher for your smoke signals.
Yeah.
Okay, you're running old modified Enigma machines for your smoke.
Yes.
Okay, right, all right. So yeah, Dr. G, you should email John, and you guys can get on the same crazy wavelength for this more shit. Oh boy. All right. This next one comes in from Brent. Brent says, "Dear Rage Masters, loyal Patreon subscriber Brent here with a question that's been in my head for a few weeks now.
Brent, you're awesome.
Lately, through the recommendations from Internet Comic Reviewers, I've been reading the New 52 Aquaman, and I have to say that I'm up to Volume 4, and I'm loving it.
It's great.
The comic has given me a new respect towards Aquaman as a character, mainly due to the focus of his backstory and responsibility as King of the Seas. This comic has me thinking when it comes to Quotey Finger's lame characters in comics and games. What does it take for you to change your mind on them? Example, new backstory, powers, character redesign. What are the most recent examples you can think of where your opinion of a character changed? Thanks, Brent." So, my opinion of Aquaman changed when he was in when Morrison started writing him in Justice League.
Yeah.
I really had a thought about Aquaman before that. Let's see. That's a good question about characters in video games that are stupid that they've turned around to be, or they've changed, gone back to change the characters later on or make them different. Without okay. So the answer to the first part to his, let's answer the first part of his question first.
Okay.
Which is what does a property have to do to get you on board with a character that you were not on board with before? Generally speaking, the characters that I'm not on board with tend to be written poorly.
Yeah.
And if you just write a good character well, then I'm totally on board with it.
Yeah.
Right? You could totally go back in and fill in backstory for characters and make them a little deeper than they were before. That's totally a viable way to change things up. I'm not really a fan of, and again, I'm sorry that I'm going to be Kojima-ing the fuck out. So Kojima, there's actually two examples of this that I think one works and one doesn't. In the original Metal Gear game, Big Boss, the character of Big Boss is just your commanding officer who then turns out to be the villain at the end of the game.
Yeah.
It's just like this is the OG MSX version, right? It's just a third act twist. Oh my God, he was actually the bad guy the whole time. What? Well, from there and from Metal Gear Solid 2 or Metal Gear 2 and then Solid 2 and then when you get to 3, they started going back in and filling in the backstory for that character to give him more motivation, to give you an insight into why he became the bad guy.
Yeah.
That to me will do it 100% of the time. If all you do is you go back in, you could take a mustache twirling. In fact, I don't know how you feel about do you feel that all the Borderlands stuff with Handsome Jack did a good job? Did that make you like or dislike his character more or less than you did originally in the pre-sequel, where they kind of retool him and show you why he's the way that he is in 2?
Yeah, I mean it helped me sympathize with his character a little bit more, but at the same time, you know, I still have the same opinion of him. He's kind of a jerk off.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the other part of my Kojima thing is that Kojima then tried to give us Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
And everybody didn't like him.
I liked him.
I didn't, but whatever.
I didn't hate him. Let me rephrase that. I didn't hate him. I wouldn't say I liked him. I was just like, oh, okay, he's a cool character, whatever.
For me, there was maybe an entirely different timeline where they didn't release E3 trailers for Metal Gear Solid 2 that I would compulsively watch over and over again and be ready for the day when I could get my hands back to controlling Solid Snake with all these cool new moves and shit they could do, only to find out after an hour that it was like, oh, that's it. And be like, and then spend the rest of the game wondering when we're going to have the third act twist where we're going to go back to controlling Solid Snake, only to not have that happen and be like, But, so I didn't like Raiden. A lot of people don't like Raiden. In 4, though, I felt like they tried one of the things that Brent here is saying, where they ninja'd him the fuck out, right? They made him into the cyborg ninja. They gave him all these cool moves, and like they even gave him more of a backstory, and they tried to make him more interesting, and he wasn't to me. At that point, he just, like, it was like, no, I don't care about him. I'm invested in this series because of your protagonist, Solid Snake, not the new guy that you brought in to be like, but look how much better he is. And it's like, it's not about better or worse. It's about the character that I have an emotional connection with and not this other character that I don't have an emotional connection with. So, anyway, did you have...
I can't really think of anything. I'm
having
be honest.
a hard time in games thinking of any of them because, I'm having a really difficult time in video games thinking of a good example. Because most of the time they'll trot out a lot of the backstory, or I'm trying to think of times where the video game industry found a character that people didn't seem to like and tried to vamp it up to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times if you don't like a character, it's purposeful.
Yeah,
you know, unless it's just a shitty writing job.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking back through my old games, and I don't know that I can think of a character that's ever been well retconned in a way that made me interested in them.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. So okay, well, in that case, commenters, if you guys have any ideas, throw them down in the comment section.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
I want to know.
I'm trying to think.
Characters that you were like, man, this character's lame, and then you played the sequel or a remake or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, this character's awesome now.
Yeah, some of the really where you didn't. I mean, I can say that there's probably been times where I've been like meh about a character that I maybe liked more later on, but yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking of anyone that actually turned all the way, that they turned me around on. Yeah, I can't come up with anything right now. Yeah. So sorry,
me neither.
Sorry, Brent. I do think, though, that I have seen plenty of times in media and like comic books and stuff like that where they'll redesign a character to try to, especially comics seem to do that an awful lot.
Oh, comics, there's always an element of redesign and reinvent and everything for comics.
And it doesn't work a lot of the times for me.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot of times it doesn't, but I mean, when it works great. And Aquaman, here's the thing, I've actually always liked Aquaman, but I agree that the New 52 run on Aquaman is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the few good things that came out of the New 52.
I think they need to redo. I think you need to do something with Batman. I want something new to happen with Batman.
Well, something new is happening with Batman.
Oh yeah, he's like a robot bunny now, right?
Played by Commissioner Gordon.
Okay. All right, our next question comes in from Jennifer, who says, "Greetings, Rage Prophets. Short and sweet. What was the first video game you ever played? And what ones made you realize how good they could get? Keep it classy, and remember to cleanse your hands in the Dong Lord salty goodness. Jennifer. So I'm trying to think here. Do you remember the first video game that you ever played?
I do not, because the weird thing is I've always had video games around me.
Okay.
Like, I can't remember a time when I didn't have video games around me.
Okay.
The earliest, like, there are two games that come to mind when I think of, like, early games, and I'm pretty sure that neither of them were my first two.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you what my first one was.
Okay.
One is being Police Quest.
Police Quest, yep.
On the PC.
Okay.
Because my parents were cops and they had a PC in the house and they loved the Police Quest game. They thought it was great, and so we've all played it. And then the other one was Empire Strikes Back on the Atari.
Atari 2600?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Because we did have an Atari 2600.
I'm trying to think, and I'm pretty sure it's possible. No, I know I was too young for that. I was going to start to think, because I remember some of my first arcade experiences being at Roller Rink back when that was the thing in the old days. But I'm pretty sure that before that, when I was between 2 and 5, some of my earliest memories were in the first house that we ever lived in.
Yeah.
We had a Gemini. It was a knockoff 2600 system, and there were two games: Frontline, which was like a little tank. It was you got a little guy that would go up, and you just go up, and then there was a tank level. I remember very specifically where you got in a little tank, you would drive it around, blow stuff up, and then Tutankhamun, a little kind of like maze game. So I remember both of those as being probably the first games, because I remember that I used to play Frontline, and I got so good at it that it was one of those. I mean, it was like an Atari 2600 game where when you got to the end, it just started over, and then it got faster. So I remember my dad watching me when I was like 3 or 4 playing this game, and I would just play it like times 8, times 9, times 10. Like kind of amazed at that sort of thing. And as far as like learning how good they could be, God, I don't know. That's a good question, because like you, I have had video games somewhere in my life forever. So, I mean, after that home console, there was arcades, which, I mean, back in the old days, that would be, if your parents are going to the mall, they hand you a couple bucks, go to the arcade, you'd spend times wandering around, like looking to figure out what game you were going to play, and, spend a quarter. And then the very first computer that we ever had was an original Macintosh, and I remember playing like Space Quest and Dark Castle and stuff like Zork and Uninvited and Deja Vu, stuff like that, old adventure games. So yeah, I don't know if I can really point to a specific one. I do know that in spite of all of that, in spite of the arcade, in spite of the piece, the Mac games that I had back when I was a kid, the original NES was a revelation to me.
I was actually about to say, I was like, I don't think there was one specific game, but I think the NES console itself was the thing that made me fall in love with video games.
Well, it was just, before that, and I know that a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that played a lot more PC games. Like, I didn't have a PC to play games. I had a Mac, right? So I was playing some of those games. But the thing was that the Mac was the computer in our house, so it was shared with everybody else. So if somebody needed to type or do something on the computer, pre-internet obviously, you had to give up your space, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have that many games because games were really expensive back then.
Oh God, yes, they were.
They were very, very expensive. So we didn't have that many of them, and I tried to beat all of them, and then when they were done, it was like, oh, well, now what? Or they were too hard to the point where I couldn't beat them. So when the NES came around, that was a dedicated gaming system that all you needed was a TV to hook it up to. And right around the time the NES came out, I remember, at least in my family, it's different for everybody, but in my family, that was a few years after I think we got our second TV in the house. So we were finally at a place where I could play the Nintendo on one TV, and then my parents could watch the other TV. So I was able to basically, it was finally a slot to have uninterrupted game time where nobody could kick you off of it. You just sit there. And that began a thing where on the weekends, we would go to the video store and I get to rent one game and then have that game and just fucking play it all weekend. Because it's Texas and fuck the outside. It is hot as balls.
It is.
It is so hot.
But yeah, I agree with you completely. I mean, the NES was kind of that console where you got to play it, and I don't remember if we had more than one TV, but it was one of those things that was a revelation to me. And I also think, strangely enough, the Sega Genesis was also a revelation to me. If only, and I bring this up, and every time I bring it up, everyone, I think I've brought it up to you a couple times, and you've even said "fuck you, John."
Yeah.
Is the other big revelation for the Genesis was the Sega Channel.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
my mom was like, all right, we'll try it, because I had a Sega Genesis. She's like, we'll see. I don't have to buy you games if you have this, so that's great. Got it, and holy shit, like my world opened up because I got to play so many different games.
Fuck you,
and
John.
It was just it was crazy.
Yeah. No,
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah, totally ahead of its time. Yeah, and I had a friend I remember also who had a PC, and I wanted a PC for a long time. But again, people tend to forget these days that like in that time frame, right? I'm talking about like when I was 10. So we're talking like 88, like around maybe 1990. PCs were fucking expensive as shit.
Yeah, they were.
And yeah, it was hard to get one. And if you got one, like I think we got like a Packard Bell, like a terrible Packard Bell.
Well, my family, we were lucky because I had an uncle that worked for Compaq.
Oh yeah,
before they got bought out by HP. For anyone who doesn't know what Compaq is, it was a computer company based out of Texas that eventually got bought by HP and merged into their company.
They made some crappy ass laptops. Really shit.
But I had an uncle that worked for Compaq, and my brother worked there for a little bit and then left and did other computer jobs. But because we had people that were computer people, we would be able to get those at a decent price.
Yeah.
So we always had computers.
And that was one of the things about the Nintendo is I don't remember I don't remember if this is exactly correct, but in my mind the NES system that came with the game, 2 controllers, the Zapper, and then the Duck Hunt Mario was like $200 ish, something like that.
I think you may be right.
That sounds about right to me. And you got to remember that, like, I got my Nintendo in 1988, and it was like a year or two after it came out. That it came out in like 87, right, or 86, somewhere down there when it came to the States, and it took me a few years to get that because I remember specifically I got it on my 10th birthday. I got an NES. I had a cake shaped like a hamburger. And me and my friends went to go see Beetlejuice in the theater.
Nice.
Boom. That's my 10th birthday. Probably the most memorable birthday I'll ever have in the history of mankind because I got an NES and then I was birthday boy, so I didn't have to let anybody else play it. I got to play it all by myself. But it's also worth noting that the NES in a lot of ways, right, is that the PC at that time and the Mac and all these things, a lot of those early computer games, you were stymied if you didn't have enough RAM, if you didn't have like there were speech packs that you would have to buy, or if you didn't have, you get like 12 discs, or they would have copy protection.
Floppies.
Right.
Don't copy that floppy.
And then you look at that, you compare that to the Atari 2600 where it was crude, you could kind of make out what was going on. You had to use your imagination. But the NES really, like, the fidelity of the graphics was like very impressive. You could start to make shit that looked like people instead of a block on top of another blob, right? And all that sound came built in and all that stuff. And it was all in this one package, all in this one little box. You just go buy. It was probably a quarter the price of a computer, or probably at that point significantly less than a computer.
Yeah.
And you totally had this, revelation.
Yes, I agree.
All right, next up we have a question from Joseph, who says, hello and praise the ding-dong-dong. Local fan Joseph here with a question of both the video game and comic-related geekery. Seems every year at Comic-Con there are... It seems every year at Comic-Con there are the announcements made and trailers shown in the infamous Hall H. However, inevitably, these trailers are leaked online as they're recorded on somebody's lame-ass phone camera with terrible sound and visual quality. My question, I admit, you may not have an answer to, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Do you think Comic-Con needs to change their ways and move towards what E3 does and live stream and record their panels for the public? To me, it makes sense for Marvel/Disney and DC/Warner Brothers have a panel of their own promoting their comics, TV shows, and, of course, their movies. That way they can show their trailers, much like Sony and Microsoft do for their games. That way they don't have to worry about trailers leaked on phones. I know some people speculate they allow the phone leaked trailers to build hype for the real trailer, but I think it's pointless to do that when there are people already hyped to see a trailer. What does the Rage Crew think? Hail the dong, Joseph Compton. P.S. Deadpool movie really missed an opportunity to make a fake leaked trailer by having Deadpool record the movie trailer on his phone as a gag, only to then switch to the real trailer. That's actually a pretty good gag.
That actually is. That would have been really good.
That would have been really good.
I've been to a Comic-Con and I've been to Hall H, and I can actually comment on something about that.
Go for it, man.
So
throw it out there.
Well, this year it was actually interesting because Star Wars did stream the entire panel online. Like, you could watch the panel online as it was happening, and then immediately after the panel, they put up the Star Wars footage that they showed.
Yep.
For people to see in high definition.
Yep.
So it was very much a, like, we know it's going to get leaked, so we're not really going to show anything super detailed, but we're going to allow you to see everything that people get to see, which I think was great. I don't think that works for everything, because in some of those halls, they do more than just show a trailer. Sometimes they'll do a TV show where they'll show an entire episode of a TV show.
Sure.
Sometimes they'll do something where it's like, oh, well, you know, it's stuff they don't want to get out there. And the problem is that unlike E3, where you have Microsoft going, okay, we're going to show this stuff, and then companies can go, I don't want to show this, so I'm only going to put it on the floor.
Right.
And so we're not going to show it on at your press conference. E3 is not like that, or Comic-Con is not like that.
Yeah.
It's panels. It's the companies themselves going, hey, you're here, so we're gonna show it to you.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers doesn't want this trailer out. Well, they're not gonna stream that on the internet.
Yeah.
They don't want that streamed on the internet because they don't want to put it out for whatever reason. So it makes it harder because it's not one company doing a thing showing off a bunch of things. It's a bunch of companies each individually showing off their thing. Mm-hmm. I do think that Comic-Con should get its shit together and start doing more streaming things like the Star Wars thing, where they stream entire panels. But I feel like if that starts becoming more commonplace, you're going to see a lot less like trailers and things like that get shown.
I think that it is ludicrous to the point of insanity that anybody in this day and age would expect to be able to show a thing to people and then not have it leak out in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
I think that's fucking retarded.
No, I agree.
I'm sorry. That was. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to wash that out of my lexicon. Yes, that is ridiculous.
It's stupid.
It is very, very dumb, and it is very naive. And to me, it shows an attitude that those companies have that is incredibly outdated, where they think, I am Warner Brothers, and I control what happens here. Sit down, shut up, and take what I give you. Where that ain't the case anymore. You are awash in a world that is full of Marvel movies, Ant-Mans, and, shit all over the place, right? And the thing is that people are excited for Deadpool, for Age of Apocalypse, for Fantastic Four, for, a bunch of all these different movies, right?
Superman versus Batman for some God knows reason.
I'm kind of excited for Superman versus Batman. I'm kind of excited. I mean, I'm going to watch it. Right?
I'm going to watch it too. So.
Suicide Squad. That people are excited for this stuff. And so here's the thing is that I feel like they have to okay, maybe this is the way that let me just organize my thoughts here real fast. If what they're trying to do, okay, so split this into two arguments, right?
Okay.
What are you trying to do? Are you trying to entice people into Comic-Con with exclusive trailers nobody else gets to see in order to get a cut of the huge amount of profit that Comic-Con makes on selling tickets? Because that's one thing. Or are you trying to get people hyped up for your movie, TV show, whatever? Because if you're trying to get people hyped up for your movie, TV show, whatever, stream it all. If you're going to show a full episode of a thing, if you show me a full episode of a show that's not out yet, and I've got to wait 6 months to see the next episode of it, guess what? I'm going to be hyped if I like that show, right?
Yeah.
The only reason not to do that would be because you want to try to entice people in there to get money out of Comic-Con. Because I've heard that when they put out that horrible passive-aggressive press release, right?
Yeah.
They were just like, we want to give the people who make the effort to come to Comic-Con something special. And it's like, that shouldn't be the special thing about going to Comic-Con. The special thing about going to Comic-Con should be, meeting artists or personalities or, hobnobbing with people on the show floor, buying and selling comic books. I mean, that's a weird thing, right?
Comics, toys, movies, whatever.
Right, little independent
Merch.
stuff, merch all over the place, signings from people who are they, celebrities that are there to sign your things, or hanging out with people who are there at Comic-Con and talking with people, taking pictures of cosplayers and meeting new people, right? There's plenty of reasons to go to Comic-Con that is not waiting in line for 16 hours to get into Hall H to see fucking Joss Whedon for 20 minutes, right? So I feel like they really need to prioritize what they want, because if that dumb press release where they're just like, well, if you guys can't keep your phones in your pockets, we're just going to have to take the trailers away, and you guys aren't going to get to see them anymore. Well, guess what? You're going to be punishing 99% of the people at Comic-Con for what 4 people with cell phones are doing, because there's always going to be 4 people with cell phones. You can't stop them. You can't stop them from taking that video and getting a whole bunch of hits on their YouTube channel. You can monetize that shit and get like a legitimate money, right? I mean, you could take a picture of the new Deadpool trailer, be the first person to put that shit up on YouTube in Hall H, right? Have it go viral on the internet, put an ad on the front of it. You could make a few $1,000s off of that, right? So you're always going to have people that are going to be trying to get that information out. I mean, fuck's sake, you remember back at E3, there used to be people who would smuggle in like video cameras, like they were recording a Hollywood movie, right? To record off of the screen of stuff at E3, stuff that hadn't been actually officially released before those channels were easy to get to.
Hell, you had people stealing flash drives just to see what was on them.
Right. Yeah. There are all kinds of shit like that. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're looking to build excitement, don't show anything that you don't want people out in the world to see. And understand that
I think the Star Wars panel is a good example. They didn't show anything they didn't want anyone to see, and basically it was like, hey, you people here who are here, not only did you get to see this on a giant screen in an auditorium full of a bunch of fans, but the entire cast was live and in person.
Sure, which is
everybody else saw it on a rinky-dinky stream feed online. That was legit. It was a legit feed, but it was buffering and whatever stream problems you may have, potentially. And then maybe a little bit later they got to see the high definition video of the thing on their small computer in their room by themselves without much fanfare. That's the experience of sitting in that room while getting to watch that stuff is the reason to go to Comic-Con. Yes, if you're sitting at home and you're not able to go, watching that stuff on your computer screen or whatever is cool, but nothing beats sitting in that room. So the fact that you're streaming it doesn't change the fact that people want to go to Comic-Con.
Right. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think they did that perfectly with Star Wars.
And you know what? If you want to show if you want to show a full episode of a TV show to like press people who are then going to go out and write about it and get people psyched up for it, and you don't want people to see that, do what they do at E3 and schedule press meetings in private rooms. Don't show it in Hall H. How many people are in Hall H?
Well, they don't all happen in Hall H, but Hall H is just the biggest one.
But don't show it in any hall. Go. I mean, it's it's at a convention center, right? There's going to be smaller rooms that you could rent out and just be like, we're going to bring in 50 or so press people that we've selected, a la E3, to watch this episode of the next season of The Flash, and then they're all going to go out and write about it, and we can control it because it's a room of 50 people. So we'll be standing there watching them. If we see somebody holding their phone up, we'll be like, nope. Because you can control press people way more than you can control people who just bought a ticket off the street to get into your
I agree.
shit. So that's what I think. I think Comic-Con really needs to get. I think Comic-Con is relying on a methodology of having convention teasing stuff that is now outdated and old, and they need to update that shit.
I think, and actually thinking about it, who has a really good streaming policy convention-wise?
Who's that?
BlizzCon. Blizzard, and the way they do it, basically they have this thing where basically it's like, okay, we're gonna have BlizzCon, you can't be there, you can't buy a ticket because they're sold out, you don't have the money to go, however, pay us X amount of dollars and you can stream everything from the convention. Every tournament, every panel, every little thing you can watch live for a small fee. Guess what? People will pay that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can totally do that as well.
And you're still hiding it behind a paywall. So somehow, if you're going to show a trailer online, sure, it's going to get out there. But guess what? People had to pay to see that.
Right. And you got money.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, if that's what you're worried about losing attendance to Comic-Con, because people are they don't have to go because they're going to see it. That's a perfect thing to do, right? $5, bring in somebody. I mean, like at this point, the thing is that if I can host an internet show from my condo, it's not going to take the people who you go get somebody like your comic book version of Jeff Keighley or whatever. Schedule some guests, set up a couch, put on a suit. Put in a backdrop. It costs nothing these days to have a fucking what would consider to be like a late night TV show or a full day worth of
or the PC E3 press conference.
Right, exactly. It costs nothing. All right, our next question comes in from Dusty, who says, "Dear Rage Select, what does it take to rekindle a ruined friendship? Have you ever ruined a friendship? Have you ever rescued one? Have you ever given up on your friends or vice versa? Thanks, Dusty the Dustonian from Dustonia." Okay, sounds like a place with a lot of coughing and hacking and such.
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on the reason it was ruined.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing.
Yep.
I know with me, I've had friends that have ruined friendships with me. Like okay, fuck you. I don't want to be in contact with you.
Right.
And, some time away or whatever, and then that person eventually gets in contact with me and says, "Hey, man, I was a dick."
Mm-hmm.
And because they were, and they're like, "I realized I was a dick." I've actually had a friendship where I completely just fell out of touch with that friend because he's kind of being a jerk or whatever, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with this. And then like a year and a half later, I just get a random phone call, and he's like, "Hey, is this still the phone number of John?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, man, it's so-and-so." And I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? I haven't talked to you like in a year and a half." He's like, "Yeah, so we need to talk because I realized I was kind of a jerk to you."
Mm-hmm.
And then, after that, me and that guy became best friends again. I was the best man at his wedding very shortly after that. It's communication, really.
Yep.
If you're the one who fucked it up and you really want to reconnect with that friend, contact that friend. If you know that you fucked it up, contact that friend and just apologize for whatever the fuck it was. If they still don't want to talk to you, hey, man, sorry. If they're willing to be forgive and forget and let bygones be bygones, great.
Yep. Time is a big factor, especially if you've had some kind of really bombastic or emotional falling out.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like 6 months minimum kind of time.
Yeah.
Like letting time go on to let a person stop or forget, or at least get enough distance from that situation in order to be able to have a better perspective on it. But for me, I really the only friendships that I've ever given up on or quotey fingers ruined have been people who have generally speaking, I try to be real considerate to the people who are my friends, and I feel that sometimes I fail at that. Sometimes I'm not as good at it as I could be.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's some friends that I've lost touch with over time, and that's fine. There's only a few people that I would say that I've actually cut ties with in an aggressive manner.
Yeah.
And there's one of my friends in particular that I cut ties with in a fairly aggressive manner, and it's the sort of thing that's the opposite. All I would really need to be able to be friends with that guy again would be for him to call and to at least own up a little bit to having a really shitty attitude about a few things that I just can't deal with somebody having a really shitty attitude about. He will never do that. And so essentially we're probably never going to be friends again because he will it's one of those things, and it's the hardest part of the falling out with another person is when both people think they're in the right.
Yeah.
And they're very emotionally firm about being in the right.
Yeah. I mean, I can even give another example. There's another friend that I had a falling out with, and I think it was kind of on both sides. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't fully to blame, and maybe I wasn't fully to blame for it. But it was just one of those things that we let it go for a little bit. We tried to basically kind of touch base, and it's like, yeah, I still like the guy. He's still a cool guy, but I'm not as good as friends as I used to be with him because there's some things that I can't get over.
Yeah.
And no matter how much time passes, it's like, no, I don't care how cool of a person you're being or whatever. I will always remember this thing that you did that pissed me off. And while I will overlook it to remain friends on some level, it's never going to be on that level. And I really don't talk to that guy anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things we interact maybe occasionally because we do have some mutual friends. And when we interact, we're like, hey, man, what's up? Hey, man, what's up? You know, how you doing? Oh, no, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing? Yeah, so, okay. Don't talk to each other anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not always as good, as easy as, hey, man, I fucked up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't always fix everything. But, I mean, if it's a situation where I personally fucked up a friendship, and I know I did, then I got to own up to that.
Yeah. Yep. And I totally agree with that. The only thing I could say is that if you're on the opposite side, where you feel like you might be the person who did the fucking up, in my mind, there is one prerequisite for beginning even the possibility of being friends with somebody that I'm not friends with, is that I need them to call me up and say, hey, I need to talk about this, right?
Yeah.
And if that other person, if the person who I consider to be the person, if that other person doesn't even care enough to give a phone call, then that's fine, because at that point it's like, well, I'm not interested in being friends with you anyway. So
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. It's funny. This is a question. This may be some of the most vague answering that anybody has ever done. It's just like, and then if person 1 and person 2 are at a Chili's, no. But yeah, I mean, you know, friends come and go. I would say that 90% of the people that I know I'm on pretty good terms with.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that I've just kind of like fallen away from.
Yeah.
But when we do end up meeting up with each other from time to time, it's just like no time.
Yeah,
at all.
no,
You're just
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
what's going on? It's like, and then there are other people who I've fallen out with, who used to be very good friends of mine, and they either drifted away or I fell out with them. Probably will never be friends with them again. But that's okay. So because that. You know, your friend group changes over time.
Yes.
All right, so we got time for just a couple more here. This comes in from Angie, who says, howdy, Jeff and John. So I've been watching a lot of scary movies lately, and it finally caught up with me. Last night I had a nightmare that involved knife-wielding children and demons. Fun, huh? My question is this. What is the freakiest nightmare/dream you've ever had? Please feel free to provide all the gory details. I look forward to what you have to say. Stay awesome, Angie. Have you ever had a really bizarro nightmare? I don't remember them as much.
If I did, I don't remember them. I mean, there are two things that I remember that are not like gory detail nightmare kind of things.
Yeah.
Like there's one where I knew that there was a specific year where I had the same dream every night.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah, and it was literally me being chased by someone through a empty city.
Was it Nixon?
No, it was just a guy in a black trench coat, long hair, very nondescript. And it always ended with me tripping over something and then him pulling out a shotgun and shooting me in the face.
Yeah.
And then me waking up.
That's very specific.
Yeah. No, it was really. I had trouble sleeping that year because of it. It was actually a thing that I had for a while. The other one was actually more recent, and it's not really a dream because I don't remember what. It was one of those half awake things where I literally scared the shit out of my girlfriend because I just started screaming because I perceived over my hovering over me,
right,
like this stereotypical Indian shaman, whatever voodoo priest, witch doctor over my bed, just like hovering over me, just looking at me, and it freaked me the fuck out. Like apparently my scream was blood curdling.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
No.
I'm sure that
we laugh about it.
Sleeping next to somebody and it's just like, oh God, fucking God.
Oh
Jesus.
no, that's tame compared to what I did. Like mine was just like a
Oh no, I was thinking about the reaction of your girlfriend.
Scared the shit out of her.
I'm sure.
But apparently that I also randomly wake up and say things.
Yeah.
And like it freaks her out because like she'll be walking in the room and I'll just like half wake up and be like, stop, don't move. And she'll be like, why? And I was like, he needs to leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're good. And then I'll go back to sleep.
Okay.
And then she'll be like, he needs to leave. What the fuck? Like apparently I have either weird dreams or I'm seeing ghosts and shit. I don't know.
Okay. I don't have any I don't have any ghost or monster fear, man.
Yeah.
It just
The thing is, I don't have any ghost or monster fear either. It's just some certain imagery, if you're half awake, will freak you the fuck out.
sure.
But yeah, you know.
I could say that my brain has evolved. It's like, okay, so when I was a kid, I was very scared of horror movies and like Freddy Krueger and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't take a shower because of the Freddy Krueger in the bathtub scene.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I was very afraid. I mean, I think I watched like Halloween 2 at somebody's birthday party. It freaked me out. I couldn't go to sleep at night. So I didn't really watch horror movies when I was a kid. I was scared of them.
Yeah.
What I did was when I started to get into my early tweenage years, right? I started watching as much as humanly possible all the behind the scenes special effects stuff about here's how we made this Freddy Krueger head, right? Which definitely went a long way towards tamping down my fear because I could kind of see behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
I could see the robot parts coming out of it, right? From there, when I was in my teenage years and then up further, I just started watching after I kind of got over the initial hump of being a fraidy cat. I just started watching as many horror movies and suspense movies and fucked up foreign movies as I could find to just desensitize myself to fucked up weird imagery, right? So at a certain point, my brain was like, oh, you don't have any fears anymore outside of spiders, right? I don't like spiders. I don't like big spiders in video games and shit.
Yeah.
But there's only specific types of spiders, and I don't encounter that many here. But so normal monster stuff, whatever. My brain's just like, haha, you think you're safe. You think you've gotten over all of your monster fears, right? Well, guess what your dreams are about now? You fucked it all up. You didn't do that thing you were supposed to do. You're late, and now you're going to get fired, and everything's going to go to hell, and your life's going to be ruined. That's what your nightmares are about. It's like administrative. You're at a board meeting and you haven't finished your report. Not you're in your underwear, but you didn't do your work, which is why I can't sleep. Even when I've drunk myself to sleep, I can't get more than about 8 hours of sleep because at right around 8 hours, I will be woken up by the tail half of a dream that's like, the video didn't render properly, right?
Yeah.
And you've got 6,000 messages in your inbox about how the site is down. Those are my nightmares. Or I've talked about this on Sunday streaming before. My brain is a number one jerk off. My brain will make me have what is the equivalent of Quody Fingers nightmares about meeting the perfect woman and falling in love and having a great time, and then I wake up and it's not true. And I'm like, aw. And I'm like, fuck you, brain. That's some horrible shit. I would rather have nightmares about getting torn apart by zombies every night than have these horrible on weed fucking just weird depressive episodes of being in the perfect relationship and then waking up to just go, okay. So that's where my nightmares have gone into a decidedly more stupid category. I wish I had nightmares about like demons and shit.
Well, I mean, I also have the kind of the stuff you're talking about. Except for me, it's like I call in sick to work.
Yeah.
And then like I'm doing something, and then halfway through the day, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have the paid leave for work because I'm thinking of what my actual paid time off is.
Yeah.
Left, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have the hours to cover this. I was supposed to go. I couldn't play hooky. Fuck. And then I wake up, I'm like, oh yeah, no, it didn't happen. All right, cool.
It's so lame.
It is lame.
So dumb first world problem where you're like, what did you dream about? I didn't post the video on the internet in time, and people were upset. I was terrible. I woke up in a cold sweat with my.
And then you forget to actually post a video online, and people get upset with you.
Right. Nobody's ever gotten upset. Like the most I ever get is like last week when the podcast was slightly off. When somebody guys asked me twice on Twitter when the podcast was going to be up, and I was like, "You just hold on. You just hold your horses, dude. You wait." And he was just like, "I just wanted to know," and I'm just. All right, we got one more question from Renee. Renee says, "Hello, everybody. Hope all is well." And this isn't even one really for you, John. So I'm sorry. My question is more related to alcohol subject. What would you say is the best and easiest to drink? I recently tried mixing Sky vodka with Mountain Dew and thus found my new love in life. But I was curious if you have ever tried something that turned out super good. Keep up the good work. Renee. I'm going to open this up to any drinks. Have you ever done any kind of mixology of Like, oh, I accidentally squeezed a lemon into this Mountain Dew Code Red, and suddenly it was amazing. Or
No.
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 You just drink what you take.
Yeah. The most experimenting I've ever done with mixing stuff is like food related.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the things I can tell you. Never mix raspberry pucker and Red Bull because it makes Vicks 44M cough syrup. And when you're making people mix drinks at a party, and what you end up with tastes like Vicks 44M cough syrup, but you're not going to waste that alcohol, it means you've got to drink a pint glass full of Vicks 44M cough syrup. So don't ever do that. My friend and I once played horse at a party, where it was one of this big party with all the alcohol laid out. We're just sitting there trying to do mixing stuff. And I got some together that had like a champagne base, and then like some vodka and some orange juice, and some, I think, like sweet and sour, and a few other things in there. And it was just delightful and fizzy and wonderful. Anything that you mix with vodka is probably going to be all right because vodka doesn't taste like all that much to begin with. I'm trying to think of what the other one was. There was one more. I have a friend who makes a Bloody Mary, but the base of the Bloody Mary, or the last thing they add in there is Dos Equis Special Lager,
Okay.
which actually works really well. Taking like a normal Bloody Mary and then like putting a bunch of kind of fizziness in it by using the beer to kind of buoy it up. And then if you want to do some just straight up goddamn alcohol magic, go learn how to make yourself a Long Island iced tea, because they are alcoholic as living shit and they do not taste like alcohol even a little bit, which I find to be incredible because it's like you mix 6 different alcohols together and it just tastes like a glass of iced tea and it will wreck your world. So
I will say part of my reason I don't drink is that I actually don't like the taste of alcohol. I think I've explained that before.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the one time I actually do, there's only 2 instances of alcohol that I've actually liked the
Okay.
taste of. One is mead. I actually do like the taste of mead. I think it's actually very nice.
okay.
Don't drink it that often though. And the other is a flaming Dr. Pepper because it tastes exactly like Dr. Pepper.
Yep. Flaming Dr. Pepper is some... I have to wonder... I always like to have these scenarios in my head of just like some guy who's like, man, I love Dr. Pepper, but I just can't figure out a way to... Like, vodka and Dr. Pepper, that just tastes like garbage. I need pure grain alcohol, but I need it to taste just like Dr. Pepper. And it's like he's in his garage for months on end, and he's
I
like...
figured it out. If you light it on fire...
And he's got like the Bunsen burner over here, and then one day he's getting ready to get up, and he knocks it over, and he's like, "Oh, it's on fire!" And he just like throws it into a beer, and he's like, "Huh." And then just what? I did it! Finally! That's right. I'm gonna be famous. Everybody's gonna remember. And his name is Gerald Pepper. So
Yeah.
that's what they call it.
And
A
he
flaming
is a
Dr.
doctor.
Pepper.
Yeah.
He's a doctor of mixology. Yep. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our show for the week. So thank you, John. It's very late at night. You've,
Yes.
you've
Got
been a
work
real
in the
trooper.
morning.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we're wrapping it up. Thanks, everybody. mail@rageselect.com is the email address. Send us all of your questions. Send all the questions and answer all the questions that we asked in the show. And we will see you next week.